This video is going to focus on the Evoke menu item, Pages. Pages are the screens of your app, and in Evoke they are organized into logical areas. Each of these areas is called a page series. You can have as many different page series or areas of your app as you want. A new app will have 3 page series by default. You're able to either reuse page series 1 or page series 2, or use the ellipsis to create a brand new page series. This will ask you to give your page series a name, and will ask if you wanted to create a new initial page for you, and also what the title of that page is going to be. When you click Create, a new page series is created and a new page is added, or app screen is added. Now, a page series is linked to from each of the menu items. If we go to the menu area, you'll see that we already have a menu item here. And what we must do is link that up with the page series we've just created. Now that we've done that, we can go back to look at our page series. Each page series will have one or multiple pages. It's completely up to you. You can set the name of the page series and a description and some free-form notes to help remind you of what this area of your Evoke app is doing. If you have multiple pages, you must determine and identify which is your entry page. This is so that Evoke knows which screen to display when you access this page series through the associated menu item. You're also able to define a number of actions to be performed when you load the page series. For example, you might want to select a series of records from your database, or you might want to perform some other actions creating new data or manipulating other data before you display the screen. These actions are from the Evoke component library click actions, and as you can see, you go to a screen similar to if you were using click actions in any other part of your Evoke app design. You're able to create a new click action, and then you're able to pick from this subset of the Evoke click action component library. The reason it's a subset is there are only a number of logical things that you would want to do prior to entering a page, and those include things like selecting information, creating brand new records, or retrieving additional data. If we go back to our page series, you'll see that we are able to either access the page that's been created, or if we want to create further pages, we can create them from new, which will give us a default page for us to edit. Maybe you have a page that you want to access and use from multiple areas of your app. If that's the case, you can create page links. If you have a page, for example, in page series 1, and you also want to use that page in the customer page series, just create a page link, go to the page series, and link the pages. It will determine if there are any templates or data sources that need to be brought across, and if there are, it will bring them across. This little symbol shows that the pages are linked, and therefore if you edit sample 1 main, it will also edit the same page in page series 1. Say you have a page that you've built up and you just want to change it a little bit and have a different page. Well, that's okay. You can import it as a copy. If you import a page as a copy, you can then go ahead and you can change that page, and it will save it as an autonomous page. So you've got your multiple pages, and we've previously talked about entities in Evoke, which are the data structures of the UI, and also repositories in Evoke. These are your back-end databases. There's one further data area that we have introduced previously, but I'd like to talk a little more about now, and that is data sources. Now, data sources are the data areas that you can select information from your database, such as a selection of records, and read them into a data source. Or you can create new data, new records in your data source. Or you can update or manipulate existing data. You can delete data, and you can actually save this back to your database. So these data sources or data areas are very important within Evoke. Data sources are specific to an individual page series. Each page series will have a different set of data sources. Previously, we looked at the concept of global data sources. Now, these global data sources set up in your Apps menu item are global across all page series. By default, your current user global data source is already set up and can be used across all page series. So you're going to need a data source for the page series you're working on. You can create a new one and you can give it whatever name you want. In this case, I'm just going to call it customers. And you'll give it a structure. In this case, it will be the organization entity. Data sources can be singular, a single record, or they can be a collection of records. You don't need to determine how many there are. Evoke will do that for you, just that there's more than one. This auto-saving option indicates whether this data source will participate in Evoke's confirm or cancel saving of data to your database. If you tick it, when you manipulate, change data in any way in that data source, it will ask you if you want to save it back to the database or cancel it. If you're creating a brand new data source in order to create some new data, then you might want to initialize this so that it's an empty record ready for you to do something. And if your data source contains a lot of data, say 15,000 large customer records, then you might want to consider data paging. Every Evoke data source has the option of data paging, and this is also turned on in your templates. Data paging means that you can consider for both desktop platforms and for mobile devices where your app is running different paging options. You might consider that on your desktop the user's probably got broadband, in which case all the data can just be retrieved in one round trip to the repository and passed back to the device, back to the app. But on a mobile device, you don't know what the user has got, and in this case you might want to consider data buffering, i.e. with data being retrieved on demand in chunks or pages, with all of these chunks being retained in memory. It's completely up to you how you use, or if you use, data paging. Okay, let's go back to our pages. And we have our customer page series with 2 pages and a data source that we set up of customers with an entity type of organization that's a collection, auto-saved and not participating in the data paging. If you're worried about people using your app on mobile devices that might have a metered connection, there are further options in the templates that allow you to not send images from a data source down to your device if they're on a metered connection. You'll see more about that in the templates video. In addition to the data sources that you're setting up, you also have the option to set up refined data sources. Now, refined data sources are simply mirrors of any of the existing root data sources. So I can set up a refined customers data source that's going to be a mirror of my customers data source. Now I can also set some other variables with a refined data source. I might want to sort the properties either ascending or descending by date or alphabetical. And I might want to set up a filter criteria, such as only show me the data in the customer's data source for this year, or only show me the data that is greater than 1000, etc., etc. And there's an additional video all about filtering. The real purpose of setting up a mirror data source, or a refined data source as they're known in Evoke, is so that you can turn on the automatic search, sort, and filtering capabilities in any of the data grids that you use in your app. You turn this on in your template, and you must use a refined data source. You will then get these little symbols that allow the user of your app to decide if they want to search, sort, either ascending or descending, or filter the information, or do any other kind of additional search through the data that has been provided. There are lots of demonstrations of this in the Evoke demonstration app. So now that we've got our page series and we've linked it to our menu and we've added our data sources, we're able to go into the screen and start designing the screen. To do that, we simply click on the page we want to edit. This takes us into the Evoke Page Designer or App Screen Designer, and there's a further video all about this that you can review afterwards. Don't forget that the Evoke Help will provide you with additional support regarding the area of the app that you click the question mark in. In this case, it's providing you information about the page series.